Hi, I'm Joshua. I work at Double Fine. I'm here to play Animal Well for our Devs Play feature. I'm here with Billy Basso.
Hello.
Dan.
Hello.
And then
Will, I'm also here.
So we're gonna play some Animal Well. Thanks for coming in. I'm gonna get started with a new game. There are spoilers. Don't watch this if you don't want to be spoiled on Animal Well, because there's gonna be some spoilers, even on this screen. So we're gonna start a new game right off the bat.
Okay.
So I watched the documentary, and just a really crazy journey, feels like you went on to get here.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything that happened, but it was a significant portion of my life.
Yeah.
That where I was making this game and it was not out.
You said in the documentary that you went to film school to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like your film school experience really helped you with this?
I think so. It at least probably informed how I think of composition, or I think of the camera in terms of the way maybe a filmmaker would. I think a lot of games, when they have the camera just track the character, there's no consistent sense of composition or where your eye should look. You're just kind of arbitrarily moving around, and I think sticking with the fixed screen style, every scene was almost like a little shot I was composing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's how I thought about it. And then I could do jump scares when it cuts across the rooms, and kind of there's a lot of ways to play with it and play with that suspense that maybe exists at the boundaries.
Yeah. One thing I also recognize, even just the music in the save rooms gives me a little bit of Twin Peaks, Laura Palmer's theme vibes.
Yeah, I don't know if I was explicitly going for that, but afterwards I'm like, it's pretty much Laura Palmer's theme.
And you did everything. You did all the music. You did all the audio, all the sound effects.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, there might be a few stock library sounds, but I would say 95% of them I either recorded myself or were made with a synthesizer. There's a couple that my girlfriend Madison made, or helped was involved in the process. Ooh,
yeah.
All right, you just did something very fancy.
Speedrunner jump.
I practiced that last night. Shout out to the Animal Well speedrunning community. I learned that from them. I did not come up with it.
Yeah, so what's happening there with that water is all the little water particles in the game are actually simulated because they're part of the seahorse boss battle, and he tries to spray you into the water. And then instead of making a more cosmetic version of it for just when you splash the water, it's still that same system that's spawning them. So they each impart a tiny bit of force to you.
Yep, and so what I was also doing, you raise there's a platform under the water there.
Yeah.
You raise it up a little bit, and then you jump in holding the jump button, and it just gives you a little boost.
Yeah, so all those particles are concentrated right at the surface, and they're bouncing off of that platform. And then you can land on them at just the right time, so there's they kind of form this cushion, and it launches you up. So yeah, and you can't jump, otherwise I think it messes up the state. But
I think that's how real water works too. If
Definitely.
you time your jump, you can jump really far out of water.
It's like skipping a stone.
Yeah. And this is not a massive character here.
Yeah,
they're a small ball.
Yeah.
Small ball, maybe something inside of it.
Yes.
The map. Obviously, right now it is very limited, but this thing gets very big. I think my first question around the map is, how did you decide that this was the first place the player was going to be? What led you to this decision?
I guess I wanted you to feel maybe at the start you were kind of at the bottom of the map. I had some broad sketches where I'm okay, this is the area where you get the bubble wand, this is the area where you get Slinky, or the 4 main items. So it's kind of dividing it up that way. But then, and I knew there was going to be some sort of hub area in the middle, and then maybe an ending area. So it was kind of sectioning off big chunks of it. And then I kind of had to squeeze the tutorial part in there where space permitted. I always use the analogy of pouring brownie batter into a pan and just sort of letting it fill up to the edges and see where everything kind of settles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of, the map shifted around a lot, but I think that tutorial area was always kind of like in that spot.
Yeah, it's definitely like a very like iconic kind of layout, I feel like. I just wanted to ask, like, at what point did you decide like speedrunners were going to be something that you support?
Yeah, I like really love watching speedrunners, and I find it kind of amazing that they're motivated to play a game in such a dedicated way, and a lot of times the game is not even designed with them in mind, or it's not rewarding them explicitly, other than they're just really intrinsically motivated to see their number go up or down. And I thought it would be nice for once to like have a few little rewards that were kind of actually meant for speedrunners.
Here we have your water particles you were talking about.
Yes, yeah. So if you kind of stand still, you'll see that they ever so slightly push you around, and that's a lot of them pushing you. So each one is just like a little fractional bit of force. But yeah, and then I knew that speedrunners were going to be a certain type of very dedicated player. There were going to be people that like data mined it. There were going to be people that just like analyzed every little detail in the background. And then there were going to be people that like just practiced it a lot and kind of mastered going through the game really fast. So I wanted to almost acknowledge all those forms of like really dedicated fandom.
This is the part that I was like, okay, I'm going to have to talk a lot here because
Yeah.
I'm like this might take a second, but I think I got it.
I think this took me like 2 hours.
Yeah. But it was like a great 2 hours.
The trick with this is the seahorse always aims for your back. So if you're kind of just jumping around randomly, it may just feel like really frustrating. But you can like precisely manipulate him. But I know that because I programmed it that way. But
Right.
And the people I tell that to know it. But I don't know how many people actually know that otherwise.
You know what? I did not know that, and I am grateful to know it.
Yeah, so you should be able to get through this area really fast now for the rest of your life.
Yeah, excellent.
Is this going as the bubble wand?
Yeah, the bubble wand.
Again, I was like 6 hours in before I found this.
But the reason I went for the bubble wand first is because it's a little bit quicker with this path I took. And one thing I really love about the design you have in this game is, to me, it solves a problem that Metroidvanias have had for ages, which is that the items you get in traditional Metroidvanias feel like a lock and key. I can't get through this door, I can't get through this spot unless I use this thing, and it just opens the way. But in this game, almost all of the stuff that you've created has some level of analog input to it, and it doesn't just let you have it, right?
Yeah.
And that allows so much player expression and like just discovery. What drove you to that design of having just like less, lock and key design and more just analog kind of expressive input?
I've played a lot of Metroidvanias throughout my life, and they're some of my favorite games. But I did kind of recognize that as like maybe one of the points where they can fumble a little bit. Like oftentimes there is a point in the game where you need one specific item, and it unlocks just one door, and you'll just have to do laps around the whole map, like looking for it, and it can be kind of frustrating. So I was trying to add some redundancy in like the paths you could take. I still like the feel of like getting a new ability and then thinking of all the places you can go use it. I think that's really satisfying. But I kind of wanted to give you multiple paths and like sort of overlap different routes through the game, so it can feel more free form. And then like if you're stuck, hopefully in the main game, there's not many places where you're truly just bottlenecked and there's something else you can go do, like if you can't figure a puzzle out. So yeah, that was like my thinking with that. And I think I was explicitly thinking of like some of the old Mega Man games where you could kind of visit the levels in any order and get the power-ups, and depending on what order you went, some parts of the game would be easier than others, and it kind of added a lot of replay value. I always thought that was cool. And then, I just wanted every item to kind of add gameplay. That was just kind of like a goal I had. I didn't want any of them to feel like one-time use, just like a sort of binary key that lets you get to an area. So yeah, they are toys literally in the game, and also like and with how you interact with them.
And there's so many expressions of it too. Like I didn't know for like half the game that you could get on a bubble and like write it down like that, you know? And of course, like this is an advanced bubble technique. Don't try it at home. This is like, I learned this from the speedrunning community, right? So
that bubble jumping technique is actually something like I didn't design explicitly, but as soon as I like, you know, wrote the code so you could blow a bubble, I tried to like time it so, you know, the bubble would pop when you blow a second one, and then the arc of the bubble is a certain way that like you can't, you know, just keep blowing them. But within like probably 30 minutes of me implementing it, it's just testing it, because like, you know, a lot of how I design stuff is I just make something and then play with it myself for a while and like see what's fun or interesting about it. And yeah, I realized you could do that, and then instead of like tuning it so you couldn't, it felt fun, so I kind of just left it in the game, and then kind of had this new responsibility to design the whole game to support it as like an optional thing, because I'm like, this is futzy enough where I'm never going to require this, because I wasn't expecting it to be part of the game, but I want to support it, I guess. So that's why there's the vines and the hummingbirds that will kind of
stop you
sometimes. You can cheese certain things, and when people do that, they feel really powerful, or like they're breaking the game, and I think that's a fun feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
We actually got a bunch of bug reports from people who discovered it, like using the bubble jump technique. And they're like, did you know that you could do this? This breaks the game. You should fix this. And it's like, thank you. Yes, we were aware that this is in there. But thanks for bringing it to our attention.
What was the biggest surprise, like in terms of reports, or when it got out into the wider world, that like something that you'd never seen before?
I mean, there's some kind of crazy, like warping glitches that people have done that I was vaguely aware you could do, but I thought I made it pretty much impossible. Like there's one specifically where you like blow a bubble and then you like let it get caught underneath you while you're like standing on a tile.
Bubble warping.
And then you pause the game, and then right when the bubble's in a certain frame of its animation, you like use the flute, and then the flute warps you. But because you were standing on the bubble like sets your Y position to where the top of the bubble is, because it's just like hard-coded to do that. But you still got warped in the X-axis from the flute. And so you can then like cross-reference the two to like pick a new arbitrary location where you like want to warp to, and then people use it to like for speedrunning or just to like break the game. But instead of fixing it, I kind of, you know, it's neat to understand how it works. So it's kind of like canon to the community now that you can do it.
That was, honestly, I was about to do it. I was about to get the flute, because this is, I'm taking a very loose speedrun kind of path here. And I felt like it works well because we have limited time to really get through everything. So now I just got 8 eggs. I can go down and get the flute. In the documentary, you talk about how you want the game to have puzzles that are present the whole time. They're just in your face, and you don't know it until you're later in the game, right? And you start recognizing stuff. And there were some things, like this is like pretty obvious, right? This is a great moment because people play with it right away. Yeah. And then you reveal this little bit, this nugget of, okay, well, this means something, but like, what does it mean? You know, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, it's the notes, right? But how did you come up with that, like the mechanics around the puzzles for something like the flute?
For a while, the flute just had the ability to play one like hard-coded song, and it was like do 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 or something. It was like 5 seconds long, maybe even shorter. And
it would just be like a one.
You just press the button, and it would play this song, and it was like kind of hard-coded, and your input's sort of locked until it's finished. And it was like that for maybe a year or two, and you could still interact with the animals. Like I think it would still attract the chinchillas, and the turtles would like wake up. The idea was it was just gonna like kind of activate stuff. And the flute still does that. It's like, that's almost like its base level functionality. And then I knew I wanted to do more like hardcore puzzles. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I was also always kind of thinking of like Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I remember being able to play songs. And I love that you can play like sharp and flat notes in that game by, I think, holding the trigger down. I forget one of the buttons. lets you do that. And it was just like a fun toy that was in the game that you could just play with on its own merit. So I kind of needed a more expressive way for players to like input data, either like passwords or codes in a sense. So I kind of already had the flute, and I'm like, okay, I should change the flute so you can actually play songs on it.
Yeah.
I just knew, I'm like, this is going to be useful to be able to input like strings of data. I think I quickly came up with the fast travel system after that, sort of playing songs to warp around. And yeah, it was just like a useful thing. And anytime I needed like that type of puzzle, I was like, oh, well, the flute can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely, and it's just like all the other tools and items you get in the game. It has a wide range of expression and also utility. I'm going to attempt to do the bubble warp right now, which is a mix of, I don't know if I'm going to do it. We're going to try. Losing the bubble. It's going to go away. I missed it. Okay, that's okay, because I don't think I was
the bubble popping after a timer is kind of a vestigial feature that when I first made the bubble, it popped like, I don't know, probably after like 5 seconds or something like very noticeable. And that was what I was thinking was going to be part of the gameplay. But I just found it not to be like very fun, having the bubble pop out from under you. So instead of like changing the code, I think I just cranked the time value up to like a minute or something. So it's actually funny to see it pop. It's probably pretty rare to see a bubble pop. Ooh,
This wasn't the right one. It was supposed to take me to the end of the game, but basically the Manticore battle.
Amazing.
But yeah, so just street cred, I can do it. I think this is a good time now to switch over to my other save game and show you one of my favorite parts, another part that really hooked me. We can talk a little bit about the design of that. I really appreciate that all of the design choices you've made are like honoring the player, and like even when you found like the bubble mechanic, it's like so often as designers we are like faced with, okay, well this is a game-breaking thing in the game. What do we do then to fix this? And the right answer is, if you can, support it. Don't take it away. If people are liking it, have fun with it.
Yeah, I tried to take that approach where I'm like, okay, what's the best solution here? And it feels bad where it's just like oh, special case this and block them from doing it, or disable that, or put up an invisible wall, or I tried to, like, as a game designer, follow the same rules that I expected maybe the player to follow. So yeah, I just don't like invisible walls in games. So if you could see somewhere that looks maybe like you could be up on it, like a ledge that's accessible, and you somehow get up there, I just want there to be something. And the worst is like you do some crazy maneuver to get up there, and then there's like an invisible wall that just like pushes you out. There's like so many games that do that. We're playing Sonic Adventure right now, which is a classic game, but there's just invisible like walls everywhere, and also holes in the floor. So it's like you could fall through the world when you're not supposed to, and then you're blocked from getting to places that maybe seem interesting.
There's no question in my mind like why this is like such a special game, to me, and just so many people. It just feels good on every front. You really took the care to, I mean, everything, all the details, and that's huge. Like that's really what it takes to make a good game, is every little piece. Like the little eyes when you look up and down, like doesn't do anything. I mean, except for you can do the tunic right now. Can you tell us about this real quick? Like there's also the Apple, they call it Apple mode. It's the Fez.
Yeah, so Fez was like, it's like an all-time classic to me, and I just, in a way, it inspired this game. That idea you mentioned of there being things in the background that are kind of in your face the whole time you're playing, and you just think they're decorative, your brain kind of like culls them out, and then later on you're like, oh wait, these animals are telling me like the secret of the universe right now, and it was there all along. Yeah, I think that was just like a very memorable moment in my life playing games, and one of the more recent ones. The other ones were like very core memories, like playing like Mario 3 or something at my neighbor's house, and like all those classic Nintendo games. So it was like probably when I was in college that I played Fez and realized like, that's amazing. I've never seen a game do that, and I think that just was in the back of my head as something I wanted to do. So I wanted to put like an Easter egg, like acknowledging Fez in the game. And then Tunic is kind of another example that I view almost is in the same lineage, where Andrew Scholes, the developer of Tunic, also cites Fez as a huge inspiration. And Tunic came out about 2 years before Animal Well, and we played it right when it came out, and just like had a very similar, amazing experience with that. And me and Madison played through it, and we have a notebook filled with like all the language that we had to decipher, and it was just another really good game. And so I was like, okay, we need a Tunic reference as well.
Hell yeah. And I remember the first thing that I saw on that game was like it shows you a save prompt or something. It shows like the save icon with like a floppy disk, and it says yes or no, but all this language, and it's like you don't know what you're saying yes or no. Yeah. I was like, that's amazing.
It worked out really well because I had just put the Tunic Easter egg in the game, and we brought it to Gamescom, and we're showing it publicly one of the first times. And then luckily enough, Andrew, the developer of Tunic, came up and like noticed Animal Well, and I had never met him before, and he like decided to play the game. And then I'm like, maybe try doing something familiar that's in your game. And then within like 10 seconds, he like held the A button down and was like, whoa. And so I was happy that he got to like sort of discover the Easter egg like very organically, and I got to meet him.
Yeah, excellent. So this was a part of the game that locked me in. Like everything else was already like, I'm gonna beat this game, but this is the part that I was like, one, it's like creepy, and it's just such a special moment. So you see this thing, and you're kind of like, okay, this looks like a boss fight almost. But what happens is you pull this disc out. Oh, I got the disc, and then this ghost dog shows up, ghost dog, and it chases you. And in this game so far, everything that you do when you like leave a room, it puts you in a safe place. But this follows you, and it's terrifying.
Yes.
And the sound it makes is like, it makes my skin crawl. Okay, so is this a horror game? Would you say this is a horror game?
I think it wants to be a horror game at times. I like survival horror games a lot, and that was like a conscious effort, was to kind of borrow elements from those classic games, like Resident Evil and Silent Hill and stuff. And that was kind of a goal early on. And when you're making like a 2D pixel art game where the sprites are little, it's actually hard to make a horror game with that like tool set. Like for a while, it's just like there's spikes everywhere, and watch out for the spikes, or there's an enemy that like you gotta avoid. And so I was like telling people, I remember telling Dan that I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking of this as a survival horror game, and you're like, I don't think it's very scary. But as I sort of time went on, and I got better like at animating things, and sort of my tool set grew, there were more moments like this chase sequence that got added to the game, that these sort of scenarios where something kind of defies expectation, or I kind of play a trick on the player and kind of unsettle them, or like
I mean, it's very unsettling. I'm gonna get eaten.
And you realize that you could do this whole sequence without being chased by the ghost dog?
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, you can get the other disc, right?
You get the other disc
Well,
first.
Like, so Indiana Jones style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you swap them out. But yeah, you can get the mock disc without holding on to the real disc the entire time.
All right.
If that's something you wanted to do. So like all of this whole sequence that you're doing now, you could do without being chased.
But you can also just be a greedy thief and insist on holding onto it.
Yeah.
You could do the whole game.
Yeah.
And some of the speedruns involve you getting the disc like right away, and then having the ghost dog chase you like the whole time, just to save like a few seconds, I assume.
I love and hate the ghost dog. It scares the crap out of me. It's funny because like the game is like mostly so chill, and I can just like leave it on in the background and like have this like I'm gonna show a little secret here.
Wait, what is this that you have?
This is
You guys are blowing my mind right now. Like, for context, like I've rolled credits on this game, and I guess we were joking earlier, that's like 1/10 of like the whole full game, right? It's like, what is this? What do you got here?
So this is a UV light. and you get this later in the game. This seems like a really hard thing to design for, actually, like adding pictures in the background and stuff.
It was a mechanic that I knew very early on I wanted, and I actually was thinking of it in a kind of a weirder way, where it was going to be, in the code it's called the anti-lantern, and because there was like this idea that there was like dark areas and you'd use the regular lantern to like light them up and sort of create these like pools of safety. But then I'm like, oh, what if there were light areas, but then you had to like take the light away, and because there's some ghosts in the game that are affected by the light. So if they go into light, they disappear. And then I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe there's ghosts in bright areas, but you need to like turn the lights off to like see them and interact with them. So that was the original mechanic, and I honestly didn't really that's not even in the game, what I'm describing. And so it just took me a while to implement. It was kind of always on the back burner because I kind of needed to make the areas first, and this was going to be like another like sort of background element layered on top. And I think just later in development, I kind of decided to re-theme it as a UV light. I just thought, I like the image of there being like the neon greens and pinks and the like, kind of UV ink that gets revealed, and it just aesthetically seemed more interesting to me and maybe more intuitive to people because it's like, again, grounded in the real world and you kind of understand how it works just when you get it, which I think is an important quality when I'm trying to avoid any type of tutorial or text in the game. It's a hard item to design because really it's just doing a whole pass on the game and adding secrets and little Easter eggs everywhere that are in the background. And there was kind of a rush towards the end of development to just like put as much stuff in as I could think of and like make it feel like a useful, interesting item. And I think compared to something like the flute or the bubble wand or the frisbee, it's like maybe a little weaker because I don't think it like sort of simmered in the game quite as long. But yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it is a truly keep forgetting that I gotta like move the right way through here. So what just happened there was I sort of cheated and got back to where I wanted to go anyway.
Yes,
But another unsettling moment with the, something you're used to is dogs don't go in holes, and then all of a sudden this wiener dog, and he waits just a second, you're like, I'm safe, and then it's like, no, you're not, and there's no way back, you can't go back, so you have to go deeper into the hole. This whole sequence is like locked me in like hard for
that's great.
for this game. What made you decide to do the wiener dog?
I think it was just like I had at some point in my life learned the fact that wiener dogs were bred to burrow into holes and like root out badgers, I want to say. And they were hunting dogs. And I think early in that I knew like that they were hunting dogs. And you look at them like, that's a hunting dog? Like, so little. Like, why don't you get like a big dog to help you hunt?
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh, it has this special ability that it can like burrow into holes. And that's like hardly ever acknowledged. That's like this fun fact that I've never seen represented in cartoons or media or anything. And I kind of have some like personal like fondness for them. As a kid, my family had a wiener dog named Molly. Before they got added to the game, I did just have the white standard dog and sort of designed a lot of areas with them in mind. And I knew I wanted to put a wiener dog in the game, and for a while they were just in the game, but they were behind a glass wall. So I think there was many builds I sent you and like Big Mode where I'm like, yeah, there's a wiener dog, and I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. And I think it'll be able to chase you in holes, but that was kind of hard to program, so I was kind of like procrastinating on that.
I don't think you ever told me that because it definitely caught me by surprise personally. Yeah, so I did get to experience that moment.
That's good, yeah. But that was in the back of my mind how it was going to work. But coming up with the right sequence of events, it seems really obvious now where it's like, oh yeah, you introduce the dogs a few times and you sort of set this pattern. You train the player on like what to expect from them, and then the wiener dog comes in and breaks that. But yeah, it took me a while to figure out that's like the right way to use them, because it's like the punchline to a long joke that needs to get set up.
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna load up my private save file, you know, the private reserves.
Yeah. The good stuff.
But I wanted to have this screen here before I do, because this little circle square that I'm standing on is a not safe. It's like if you go into water, it will not teleport you there. It'll teleport you back to like any other safe spot that you were just at. It's not your last known good.
Yes.
And so the community was like, okay, you have a bubble wand, go make a bubble, and you have to make your way. Actually, I don't want to die from dogs. Make your way. It's like a room that is like up here somewhere. It's like around snakes around, and then you use the remote, and then that's what lets you. Then you fall into the water, and then that's what puts you here. And there's a bunny back there. Okay, so. But one thing that, like my crew of designers, when we were like playing a game, we like dissect it a little bit. Like we recognize that the first layer is eggs, and it's very accessible to everybody. Everybody can do it, and you don't have to get all of the eggs to beat the game, right?
You don't have to get a single egg. I think you can skip
You can
them
actually
all.
just do it.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
So the eggs are kind of, if I had to, when I always think of it, I'm like, that's like layer 2 of people. If you get all the eggs, then you can get a special ending. And some extra items in the process.
What was your process there? How did you end up with all these different layers of puzzles, and then kind of compartmentalizing them into different parts of the game for how, like you said, the bus stops earlier?
Yeah, it is like a bus. You can get on the bus, and there's like a bunch of stops, and depending on how comfortable you are on the bus, you can get off at various points. And yeah, I think it was just like partially an accessibility thing, partially there's just different player types that I kind of wanted to cater to. And also I think it's like that can all be like the same person. Like when you're just getting introduced to a game, you don't really trust it yet. Like you're like still kind of figuring out what it's about, and I don't expect people to like start taking notes or like right out of the gate and sort of dedicate a lot of time to this game that they really don't know anything about. So you kind of need to earn their trust, and my way of doing that was to just make a very polished, accessible, fun game with most sort of intuitive, enjoyable game mechanics I could think of, and kind of give them a low friction experience, like have something that's rewarding and enjoyable, and is like worth they at least like get some value out of their money. And then if you're more of a completionist, and you want to spend more time with the game, then there's all the eggs and a lot of secret optional areas that you can get to. But that is still sort of I designed all that with the idea that like this is what you would find in a reasonable video game. These are just like the bonus things, and most games have stuff like this if they're kind of polished, like complete experiences. And that's where I kind of put all the achievements in the game. Like you don't really need to go beyond that to get all the Steam achievements. But then beyond that, I wanted like secrets in the game that maybe you found one or two of while you were playing on accident, and then these are the things that sort of foster the community, and people are eager to like share with each other. And those are the type of things where I could sort of explore ideas that really do seem kind of unfair or weird or really unconventional, and they can still go in the game, but you're not expected to find them. You're expected to maybe hear about them from someone else. And people still do get really upset that some of those are hard to find, or so it's hard to communicate that's like the intention for that. And then beyond that, I just wanted to like put things that I was hoping like people like take a really long time to find, or there's it's kind of an open question. What else is in the game?
Yeah, I like that they opt in, and for me it was like, I opted in real hard. Definitely there were like puzzles that required community engagement. I wasn't there for that, so I started playing the game like maybe a month after it had shipped, and like the community really just like nailed all of the puzzles like super fast.
Yeah.
Well, technically, none of them absolutely require community. You can delete your save file and just play it like 300 times.
Dan has a story about that.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was testing the game, and this was before it was out.
Right,
and
you didn't have a community.
And I found this puzzle piece that presumably 50 other people all find different puzzle pieces, and so that's a big spoiler. But Big Mode found a couple of theirs. Jason and Lee H found one, and Sean found one, and so we had like 3 or 4, and it was like, all right, well, we need more of them. And of course, Billy being Billy wasn't just going to give us all the puzzle pieces. So I was sitting there. Unfortunately, this segment was easier then than it is now, but like I figured out a speed run way to get to the puzzle piece. Now it wouldn't work because there's just more steps in that, but I got my time down to like 8 or 9 minutes to get to the puzzle piece, and like so many times I'd like go 8 or 9 minutes and get it and be like, I already have that one. So yes, I found every single puzzle piece, and
Very impressive.
It took forever.
I bet. So this leads into my next question. So I'm gonna go back to the main menu. Okay, so I saved here. This is at the end of the game.
Yeah, I see it's a very svelte 57 hours. Like,
Yeah.
I see you didn't really put enough time into it.
Yeah. A lot of this was just being in the community, and like, so I showed up a little bit late, but we were still in the like what's in the space area and really digging into some of the other. There's still rooms. So like if you look at my map, you'll see it's still got the code on it.
Yeah.
Which that was also one of my favorite like next tier like kind of puzzles. I loved it very much. And so I'm here, and I'm pretty late in the game, obviously. Like, I've done a lot of stuff. I've got the secret. I was there when they discovered that you are a Mexican jumping bean. Big spoilers.
All right.
Very cute, also, love it. And I want to say, like, so one of the bunnies was you have to be hooked up to a printer, and then when you are, this computer is on. And then you print out, like, if you go up and interact with it, it prints out something for you. And I didn't know this. I just interacted with it, and I was like, it's not doing anything. And I have, like, noise-canceling headphones, so my printer's printing. I had no idea. And then, like, it was like 2 days later, I came by and I was like, something printed, and it's like origami. I was like, I live with my partner. I was like, did you print something? She's like, no. I looked through it and I was like, wait a minute, there's like bunnies on this, and I goosebumps. I was like, this thing's been in my house for like 2 days. The game is infiltrating my personal space. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've had in games. And it reminds me of like, when I was a kid, I used to like make scripts to like open up the CD-ROM drive and stuff, and like put it on my parents' computer just to mess with them. And so this is the result. Like, you get instructions on how to do a little bunny origami. And it actually has flute codes on it to warp to a bunny to get a bunny. And this was still at the point, like, I hadn't spoiled myself for it, so I did it. And it's amazing. Such an amazing experience. So I want to ask, like, what the hell, man? Like, how did you come up with this idea? Like,
I'm trying to remember. I remember telling Dan about it before it was implemented. I'm like, I think I'm going to do something where if a printer is hooked up to your computer, it'll make some origami, and you're like, yeah, that's a good idea, do it. But it was also, I often come up with like impractical, like pie in the sky ideas, and there's some that didn't make it into the game.
Ooh, I'd be really curious to know what those are.
but the printer one, I remember this was probably a year before launch, and I was just sitting there, I'm like, this feels like something I kind of would just spitball and not do, but I'm like, I just need to do it right now. Because if I save this until like a few months before launch, I'm going to be too stressed out, and I'm not going to have time to like figure this out and figure out how to even use the printer API in Windows, and how do I get the like origami printer like printout asset in the game. So yeah, I spent some time just like learning how printers work, and I was kind of delighted to find out that even though they really heavily suggest that you show the like standard Windows printer dialog where you pick your paper size and you ask for confirmation from the user that you want to print it, and you can print it in black and white or whatever. But if you just like can kind of, you don't need to get those settings from the user. You can just kind of hard code them, and you could just send the print request right to the printer yourself. So that, I think, was a crucial part of it. I'm like, I can't let them know.
You can't let them have a pop-up window about like
doing.
when it wants to print something. That kind of ruins the surprise.
Yeah, so it just needs to start printing. You just need to hear like the paper start chugging through the printer. And yeah, I'm just super proud that it like worked out. And it's a little bit of a shame that it's only on the PC version. And
right. Yeah.
Oh, I think one little thing that maybe why it's stuck in my mind is I remember on the PlayStation 3, in the XMB sort of menu dashboard, there's options to like set your screen resolution and audio and manage your save files, but then it had a section in there where it's like printer configuration. I'm like, why would you connect a printer to your PlayStation 3?
Yeah.
And I think it just had to do with the photo library that you can maintain. Like maybe you wanted to print your photos, but I didn't get that at the time, and I'm like, that is crazy. Why would you hook a printer up to your game console? So I think that is where I got the idea from, and that was like, 15 years ago or something, well before I even was making games. I think at the time I thought there was some game that used the printer, and I'm like, what game is that? No one ever talks about that. And so yeah, that's probably that stuck in my mind as something I wanted to do, even though it didn't really exist in the way I thought it did, but it gave me that idea.
A lot of the vibes I get. Did you ever play Eternal Darkness on the GameCube?
Yes.
I get a lot of vibes in it, but like that was like hostile to the player. Like you'd be like, oh, it deleted my save file? What the hell? But this was like a much more positive experience, even though the game is still pretty creepy. And like, finding this, it wasn't like this. It's a couple sheets of paper, like finding that just laying there was a little, I was like, what the hell? And I think even if I hadn't let it sit there for a couple of days, the experience of hearing the printer going would have also kind of triggered that, When I finally joined the community, I was part of the community when we were discovering the space had an analog layout over the actual well map. So on this map, I think that like where this question mark is, right about here, there are some things that like the space map kind of lines up around this area up here. And I'm gonna go and kind of do mega spoilers. Okay, so I'm about to blow your mind because you don't know any of this.
I have no
right
idea
now.
what's happening right now.
Okay,
It's incredible.
so this is kind of like the third end of the game, second end of the game. Third,
Second end, maybe.
And you can get inside these. Oh, that's right. I've got my lantern on. You can get inside these guys. What I do like
So
is
this was like the big bad at the main ending.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
the first ending, I guess.
yes.
The little baby boy ending that I got.
Yeah.
So you eventually can get in them, and then there is another one over here, and they like to hang out. I also love all the designs of the bunnies, and the BDTP was very cruel, but I do appreciate it still.
It's a hard one.
And so I'm gonna do this now, and I'm gonna see if I used to have this memorized. In my heyday,
Okay.
I was like, memorize this. Is this okay? Do you want to go here?
Go for it. Yeah,
okay.
I used to have it memorized too, and I don't think I do anymore.
I'm gonna see if I can do it well.
So one thing that Billy, you might want to talk about while he's doing this is you're actually decrypting a file through your input. You may not
Yes.
realize this, but yeah, you might want to talk about how you...
So what is happening right now is the game is keeping track of the record of directions he's going in on the screen, or which edge he's sort of leaving. And it's maintaining a buffer of those directions. And what it's doing is it's using that buffer as a decryption key or a password to a certain set of files that are in the game's executable. And every frame it is trying to decrypt those files with the inputs that are in that buffer. And usually it is failing every time. But if you do a certain...
Like me, I just failed. I have to start over.
Yeah, this requires intense concentration because it's kind of long and tedious.
It's good though. Like it's like the Forgotten Forest.
Yes, but yeah. So this is a puzzle that, in theory, was protected from data mining. The people in the Discord and the community were still just actually very good at solving puzzles. So that's how this still got solved pretty quickly. But yeah, this was something that couldn't have been data mined in a traditional way. We might need to be quiet so you can concentrate. This was very hard to test.
I believe
late in development because I had to do this sequence. I truly there wasn't a way to sort of debug cheat it.
Yeah.
Because the assets are encrypted. So, and I was very concerned about that encryption stuff working properly.
Yeah, and this is one of those puzzles that Billy had to give me the solution to, because I was able to get all the bunnies, and I needed a couple hints and brainstorming with with the big mode people, and trying to figure them out. And we got through all of them, but yeah, the rest of this, I think I needed help, and I was like, Billy, just tell me what to do.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, excellent. With the BDTP, once I had the numbers and solved it, I still wasn't sure what the heck to do with it. So I did rely on the community in that regard.
Yeah, I solved the BDTP, but then,
that was fun.
Yeah, and then then I couldn't go beyond that about like what to do with it, and I might, because you need you need all of the other stuff, and that was harder for me to get the wingdings.
Yeah, this also made me laugh quite a bit. You're like in this big bun, and you can kind of like,
Yeah, there's some collision in there.
I love that it lights up like his inside, and that you come out his butt. And
there is a little like a little poopy sound when you come out. It's very subtle though.
And then of course, like I got here, and I was like, what? And then of course you figure out that you can evolve, or not evolve. Like you come out of your whatchamacallit.
The digestive juices of the rabbit's stomach, kind of weakened your Mexican jumping bean shell just enough for you to finally hatch.
I love it.
I thought this was kind of a funny joke when you when you come out of the bunny's butt, your eyes are blue, kind of like the spice in Dune.
Yes, I love it. I'm not going to do the temple or the time capsule, because that's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah, people can.
And that's a really
do that at
special
home.
one. Yeah, that you can. I looked that one up. And most of the wingdings, as the community was calling them, I looked up the solutions. No shame to anyone who has to do that.
No, you have to look those up. They're not meant for real play.
It was some of the bunnies felt really like, okay, this is a lot, but the wingdings were like, some were very brute force.
Yeah, my thought process with those were. I've just noticed in like the speedrunning community for old games, people tend to like make up challenges for themselves just to like, I don't know, if they're going to keep playing the game, they'll just try stuff. And I tried to think of a lot of things that people either might, on a very rare occurrence, stumble into, or they'll be like, yeah, let's see if I can eat every fruit in the game. Because I mean, it's something you might think of to do. And like,
well, with puzzles like these, there are people like doing some crazy stuff in the Discord there.
Yes. And so I knew those people existed, and it definitely, almost nobody is that type of person. But when somebody makes up a goal like that, and maybe there's a chance that the game actually acknowledges it and gives them something, I thought that would be very special for them. And I was expecting them all to sort of share their findings.
Also, Dan, you were running has everything in Animal Well been solved yet.com or something, right?
Yeah, that site's up there.
It's still up. It's still up.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to do something here that is something. There are a bunch of things that I've got questions about, which I'm going to respect the fact that you're not going to tell me, because I'm going to respect myself, not even ask you, because I know you're going to say no. So this is a technique that we've come to know as schwarping. Have you heard of this in the community? Have you seen this?
I've heard of this,
okay,
yes.
Schwarping. So this is when you're coming from this particular location, right? You're on the temple in space, but this has an analog. You can't open the map here, but this has an analog to the map, the well that you normally play in. And in playing a few times, in doing this a few times, I noticed it's hard to tell, but to go through the torus, you have to come out of that mode. You're on those not safe zone blocks here, which I identified in the previous bunny puzzle, right? And that was a solution, like that was intentional. So I'm looking at this, and the community has been back and forth, like if this was intentional. And I'm like, the amount of detail that Billy Basso has put into this, it seems very intentional to me. So you have to jump and turn into a moth, and then you fly, and you get up to an area where there's water. And if you know the mechanic, if you fall in water, it just teleports you back to your last known good location. In this case, it's in space, but I'm not in space anymore. I'm in the map, and this is a place you can't get to otherwise. And then you talk to the sheep, and it says, "My wool is damp and matted," which I saw this in the documentary. It's like, oh, it's the sheep. And then there's one more piece where we found that if you play music at all and you talk to the sheep, your song brings me relief, which is very cute. Okay, so I don't know. Do you want to say anything about this? Is this like was this intentional, or is this just like you had stuff left over? There are a bunch of, it seems like animals kind of just around.
Yes, and yeah, as you can see in the documentary, they are sort of cut content.
Over my objections, I should add. That was the one point of disagreement between me and Billy. I was like, when he started cutting all the animals, I was like, no, I love the animals.
I'm like, no, this is not the.
It's not real.
I'm like, animals don't talk, Dan. Grow up. I'm cutting them.
Yeah.
The toad was still there. It's in the, you can find it by kind of naturally.
I buried the toad in the ground, but yeah, that one is accessible in a more conventional way.
There's the Apple mode.
There it is. Yeah, I won't say much about this other than yes, the sort of respawning warping mechanic that people are calling schwarping. I was aware that was possible.
Okay, that's all we need to know. This was truly an amazing game. It's my game of the year, maybe game of all time, just in general. I love it.
Thank you.
I still, when I was like, okay, so Paul reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to do this? Because we knew we're doing devs play, and I was like submitted this as like an idea, and he was like, hey, Billy's interested. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay. I was like, I have to refresh all my knowledge and like dig into it. And I found myself digging into the community again. So thank you so much for creating something so just incredibly engaging, but also like it has the depth to really keep people around. I'm really looking forward to your next games, whatever they are. I'll probably still be digging away in this one for who knows how long. I have two final questions for you. I'll ask about the game first and about the community. The community, last time they asked you, I think it was like a Reddit AMA, you said, let the flowers guide you. Is that still a thing that the community should be biting down on? You could just ignore it too. You say,
I'll ignore that one.
Okay.
Ignore that one.
And
flowers are great.
What's the next one?
The next one is, if you were any kind of animal, what kind of animal would you be?
Oh wow. Being a bird would be cool. Or being like I heard that the mantis shrimp can see like 22 channels of color or something. Yeah. So I want to know what that's like. That's like another plane of reality that like is like transcendent.
It's like the UV light in the game. It's like
exactly
all
like
this stuff that you were missing out on.
It's like seeing like the universe beyond. But maybe it's not even that interesting. Maybe being a mantis shrimp is actually just kind of boring and uncomfortable at the bottom of the ocean.
Just hanging out down there.
But I would always at least want to try being the mantis shrimp for a moment, just to check, just to see what it is.
Yeah, is it all the hype really worth it?
It's like that college dorm room thing where it's like, did you ever consider that maybe the blue you see isn't the blue I see, and we're seeing different versions of reality, but we all like agree that it's the same, but we can't really check. So that's how I feel about the mantis shrimp and really a lot of animals, and I want to get inside their mind.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to do this. It's been truly an honor.
Thank you. This was amazing, and it was so cool to like sit down with someone and go through like some of the most obscure parts of the game that I don't really get to talk about.
Yeah, no, it was truly an honor, and like I'm looking forward to the community like getting a hold of this and like being like,
I think they're gonna love it.
Try to prove my my Animal Well street cred. I've done all the stuff. The last
gamer cred going up. For sure.
Exactly. The last thing I have for you is, before you leave, will you sign my origami bunny, both of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This guy's so cool, also, and now he's even cooler.
Yes.
Yeah, and daughter. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's
my
awesome.
wife came up with the steps of like what to do, and then my daughter drew the step-by-step guide. And yeah, those, I think that's like the only art asset in the game that wasn't made by Billy. So I feel like it, in a way, it sullied the game that there's like
This is a one piece.
there's an asset in there that
I did make an origami before, but then you're like, I think.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah,
it was
like,
bad.
Like I think
It was a puzzle in itself.
You were like, yeah, Sumi really loves origami and Maya.
Sumi and Maya, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they would love to take a crack at it. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's got even deeper meaning, than
Yeah.
I realized. So as like most things in Animal Well.
And wait,
So-
what color are your phones? Your phone's still yellow.
They're still yellow. So
That's surprising.
I know. I messed up when I did the speed run, and then I forgot to get the telephone. So I just haven't done it
yeah.
yet. Like I forgot to go in there with it because I also did it without dying, of course. But
What's the telephone significance? What is it?
when you get to the end of the game, the first ending of the game, there's like a little room. I'll show you. But so there's see that little pink chest over there.
Right.
If you beat the game or you get to this room without dying, there will be no skulls, but one skull blocks the entrance.
Oh, right, okay.
And then you get that chest, and then it turns all of your your telephones, which are the save game locations, into pink telephones, which I am remiss,
But if you beat it on any save file, it'll turn your phones pink in every
save file, yeah.
Yeah,
But you have to get that chest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's that
well,
was the thing I skipped, I think.
It's actually not that chest, but
Oh.
wait,
I
it's
won't.
not?
I won't go further.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
I forget. I see, and this is where my
Right, but yes.
my knowledge from a while back wasn't. But to beat the game in the speedrun, I did bubble warp, and it puts you in this room.
Okay.
And so I just remember running
So
out. of the
maybe
room
there's
without getting
something you don't know about in this room.
Oh, maybe, yeah, it's possible. I'll have to go take a look at it because I was able to do the speed run today, just fine. I just did it in front of everybody,
Excited for you.
in front of the world. Yeah, I'm gonna go home and noodle away. Awesome. Oh, and the one thing I wanted to get at that this also was something that my friend showed me this. This is just fun. If you move, it moves all the physics objects around. So cool, man. I was like, you thinking about even windowed mode, somebody moving this stuff around, and then there are some puzzles that this actually helped me with. I was recording with OBS and just did this to get one of those flute codes, for one of the bunnies. And I was like, okay, man, okay, that's a level of detail I just am so impressed with.
I'm glad you found that. Yeah, that there are certain advantages to making your own engine, and one of them is kind of being able to define how the core update loop works. In most games or most engines, if you move the window around, it's not gonna update. It's gonna block the main Windows message pump.
Yep.
And you don't usually have access to even modify that. Like Unreal or Unity, they're doing that, and you write your gameplay code.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually put the Windows message pump on a separate thread so it doesn't block it, and then the game can still be updating while the window's being moved around and resized, which I was happy about. And so then I can kind of have it react to that.
So cool. This is normally I see people make games and their first indie game that they launch it's just not this polished. It doesn't have all the edge cases figured out,
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that there weren't ever updates that fixed bugs, but that happens. You can't avoid that. But the level of detail in this game is something that truly astounds me and most of my colleagues, to be honest with you. So I got to ask, was this stuff that was always there? Is this something that you picked up along the way? Was it just you dissected other games?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been obsessed with games my whole life. That's just the one constant amongst all the hobbies that kind of waxed and waned. I did work at other game studios for about 10 years, before really getting started on developing this. So I had experience shipping games and kind of seeing the whole, production process, kind of start to finish. But it was from the point of view of an engineer. So I was always just a software engineer, and I watched, my colleagues kind of work on the art and every other aspect. It wasn't the first game project I had ever worked on by a long shot. So I had some experience, and I had attempted to, make games on my own a few times, and they just never got finished. They kind of either got too complicated, and I kind of got bogged down in making more content for them, or they were just architected badly. And so this was just meant to be a really simple little project that I could kind of assure myself that I would finish, and I wasn't trying to do 3D. I wasn't I was aiming low with this, and I thought it'd be an hour long. And I wanted to make the game engine myself, and I'm it's gonna be a tiny game, but I'll make it really really neatly, and it'll be like bug-free, because a lot of the projects I had worked on during my day job were pretty buggy. And when you have a lot of people involved, most of the bugs don't come from any one person doing like a bad job. They come from people not communicating well and kind of making false assumptions about how something works or whether something got finished by someone else. And I figured I could avoid a lot of bugs just by working on my own, and I knew exactly like what was or wasn't there. And there was probably multiple times where the scope of this game kind of expanded, and I kind of had to take a step back and be like, okay, I thought I was going to be done, but I actually want to like add these extra things. And that happened a few times over the years. So in a way, making Animal Well felt like making like 3 or 4 different games that each time it was done, I'm like, okay, it's not good enough. It's not like, I'm not really excited about releasing it, so I'm going to just kind of go back and keep working on it. And yeah, so it had the advantage of all throughout development, or most of the development. It was pretty playable, and I think Dan was able to like have a reasonable experience like pretty early on. Just there was like less content there, so
it was a very different kind of game. The deep secrets weren't in the first time I played, so I just purely enjoyed it as like a almost like a platformer, an exploration kind of game, and reminded me a lot of V at the time. And now it's
pretty different.
A lot. Yeah, now it's pretty different, but obviously I like the way it evolved. But yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted it to be a Mexican jumping bean? Because I recognize the character, you know, like.
I think I did. I had bought some Mexican jumping beans right around the time I started making this game, and like had them in my house, and I think they eventually died and stopped jumping. But
just beans.
They were kind of fresh in my mind as this like fun childhood thing. And I remember, I think, hearing about them when I was a kid and not knowing what they were, and then learning that it's like, oh, there's actually a moth larva in there, like trying to hatch or get out, and it's causing it to jump. It's just kind of a cool thing, and it fits in with like the rest of like the toy items, or like you in a way are a toy.
Yeah. That is like weirdly kind of the last confirmed solved puzzle, right, from the community. Is that somebody was like, "Is this a Mexican jumping bean?" And you're like, "Yes, it was." Or it is. You're a little guy. Did you expect that to be the last thing people solved, like the longest riddle?
Not really. I thought maybe they'd figure that out sooner, but they were calling it all sorts of things. They're like, it's my potato character. My people are saying you were a seed, and I'm like, that's not quite right. A lot of people just thought it was a blob, and it took a while to like specifically. Someone like looked up the Wikipedia page of Mexican jumping bean, and like,
and
it all
made
lines
the
up.
association.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
This reminds me of Animal Well.
Yeah.
People go digging. One of my most recent favorite theories is, I forget the guy's name, something Game of Life.
Conway's Game of Life.
Yeah. And you put like little pixels down, and they kind of like self-propagate out, and they create these like little patterns. And somebody created, I think it was like the manticore's face. And
I gotta look at this.
And it became, I'm going to show you a picture of it right now. So like this, you start with this, I think.
Wow.
And it ends
there
up
it is.
making like, you get your, guy coming out of the flower or whatever. I was like, that's 100% the Mexican jumping bean coming out of the flower. Like all these different like little patterns.
It looks like a moth hatching.
You got a bunny in there with like a little face and like the moth up there. And this led people down that path of like, okay, is he thinking like 4D chess? Like, are you
I will
familiar with
admit I was trying
Manticore, is that?
to do something with Conway's Game of Life, or I sort of had it in my mind throughout development, because that was like an early, like mind-blowing moment when I was like learning to program. I just like learned about cellular automata, and I think a lot of programmers kind of stumble into them, and you do feel like you're discovering like the secret to life or something.
Yeah.
You're seeing like, I'm like, these little pixels can make what looks like a complicated like ecosystem of bacteria, and it seems like infinitely complicated, and it's just moving around. And then you read, it's just like, oh, like if neighbor count equals 3, turn to black, else like turn to white, and like it's like every pixel just like following those rules. And I'm like, that's definitely how life works. That's that's how. Yeah.
I do love the fact that in the Discord community, one of the emojis is like the blob wearing a tinfoil hat. There's so
three
many
different-
tinfoil. Yeah.
Definitely driven people to madness.
Yeah.
It's funny because there are 3 different types of emojis for that. There's the regular tinfoil hat, then it's like kind of pulled down, you can kind of see his eyes, and then it's like over the whole.
Yeah,
it's
like
it's like
way
you're
too
fully,
far.
yeah.
It's your tinfoil house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're living in there now. It's great. All right. I mean, I've covered all the stuff that I really like had notes for, and some that I didn't. So
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you guys any longer if you don't need to be. But this has been truly a great experience.
Yeah, likewise, and I'm happy we got to cover a few more things. So yeah, this was amazing.
Cool.
Super great.
Thanks for letting us go a little longer.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys. It's super interesting stuff.
These little bubbles up there, there's something going on with those little
Okay.
guys. There's something. They go in front of you. Nothing in the game goes in
That's
front of you.
kinda weird.
Yeah.
They do that.